Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Greg. Welcome to the channel. Today I wanted to talk about another dream I've had. I've talked about them before. Dreams I've had with the Thunder Wizard and things confirming that I'm on the Thunder Wizard path, that it's really the right path for me. So, yeah, this is another dream that I had. And maybe 1 month or 2 months ago, one of Thunder Wizard's live streams, somebody asked him about if he had a power animal. And he said, yeah, that one of his apprentices had a dream of a power animal that he owned in the dream. And, he went into his remembrance of what was described in the dream. And he said, yeah, after doing some meditation, and I think Venus was his Atmakarika or one of his Devatas, I'm not sure. But there was a connection to the Venus and the power animal. And so he realized, yeah, it definitely was for him his power animal. So that apprentice was me. So I wanted to talk in more detail about that dream that I had. So this was a dream where I was at a friend's house. This was a best friend of mine growing up in the late 80s, early 90s. So I was at his house, and he had a two-story house in the dream. And we were in the second story in his bedroom. We were just talking or whatever, just hanging out. And then ended up going outside into his backyard, and we were kicking back in his backyard right there on the lawn right there. And all of a sudden, behind the backyard, there was this really big mountain that was back there, and I all of a sudden heard and felt this rumbling sound going on, and I turned to look at the mountain, and I was just feeling it rumbling and seeing it moving, shaking a lot, and I started hearing a sound of a heavy lake, a big body of water. You could feel it getting louder and louder, and I suddenly realized, it's a tsunami, it's going to come over the hill. And I turned to my friend and I said, it's a tsunami, let's run. And when I looked over at my friend, it wasn't my friend anymore. It was Mike, the Thunder Wizard, and he just looked at me and he didn't say nothing. He just turned around and ran into the house, into the back door right there. And I was too far away from the house to run in time, because the water started coming over the hill already, over the mountain. And I was like, shit, what do I got to do? There was this wall that was separating the property from the neighbor's house. And it was a wall that extended from the backyard all the way to the front yard. And as it extended to the front yard, it got higher and higher in steps. So I saw that wall and I was like, let me jump on that wall and I'll climb over to the high ground, more closer to the front of the house as the water comes. So that's what I did. I climbed onto that wall and started getting up on there, and up to as high as I could onto that wall, and the water was coming. So I just braced myself on the wall. I was holding on. I was crouched down, and the water came, and this wall, I ended up being like maybe a story high, yeah, something like that. And the water came, and yeah, it was right under me, right under my feet, and I could feel the wall kind of moving a little bit, but I was holding on, and that water was just coming and coming and coming. And maybe after like 30 seconds or a minute, it started subsiding, and it subsided real fast, really fast. It's a dream, whatever. The water subsided all the way down to where it just looked like it was just rain that just wet all the asphalt and the lawn and all that. So then I was like, all right, cool, I'm safe now. And I jumped off the wall, and I went back into the backyard and into the door right there, into the back door. And the Thunder Wizard was right there. And I was like, hey, are you okay? And he was just standing there, and he goes, yeah, I'm fine. He goes, I just ran in because I wanted to check on my pet boar. And I said, you got a pet boar? A boar for a pet? And he said, yeah. And he goes, come check it out. And then he walked back into the backyard, and I followed him, and we went into the backyard. And all of a sudden there was this big humongous boar. He had his back towards us, and he was facing the other way, but it was humongous. I mean, it was like the size of a rhinoceros, or maybe even a little bigger, just big, bulky, humongous boar. And he called its name. I don't remember what he called it in the dream. But he called it, and then it turned around. It turned around and it faced me. I mean, it was like right in front of me, a foot away from me. And it looked at me. It looked at me and it looked me over. Like it kind of like read my energy. It looked up, looked at my in my eyes, and then it looked down towards my body, and it kind of went. Then he kind of went, okay, and then and in my mind I had like this intuitive connection with the boar. I kind of like heard its thoughts or whatever, like telepathy or whatever. I kind of heard it say, well, you're not there yet, but you're getting there. You're on your way. So once he did that, made that face, and then kind of went, oh, okay. And I extended my hand to so he could smell my hand like you would a dog. So he kind of sniffed my hand. Then he lowered his head and he let me pet him. So I started petting the boar for a little bit, feeling comfortable around it. And then the Thunder Wizard, he goes, yeah, I was also worried about my ducks in the pond over here. He looked over to the right, and I looked over and I seen a pond, but I didn't see any ducks in the pond. And that was it. I woke up from the dream and I was like, wow, that was a trippy dream. I think I wrote it down too. This was when I first started talking to the Thunder Wizard. Maybe 2 or 3 sessions in to talking to him, I had this dream. And it was the night before I was going to talk to him too. And I told him about the dream. And he goes, okay, well, let's just go over this one thing at a time. So you were in a room with your best friend. You went to the backyard. You heard the tsunami coming over the mountain, and you turned to warn your friend, and it turned into me. So he was saying that symbolizes that you have a trust in me, in me as a teacher to you, because your best friend, you had trust in him to open up to him about your life. This is a best friend from back in the day. I'm not close to the guy anymore, but back then, yeah, he was a best friend. So I opened up to him. So he said that symbolizes trust in the teacher. And when I turned to the teacher and I told him it's a tsunami, run, he said that the fact that he just looked at me and then turned around and ran in the house, that symbolizes that I need to take responsibility for my own life, take control of what's going on in my life. He can teach me and guide me, but ultimately it's up to me to make the decisions in the end. And so, and then also me jumping on the wall and then the water coming, he said that's a good sign. That shows that you're not getting drowned in your emotions, because the water represents emotions. And he's talked about that before too. When you have dreams of drowning, it's indications of being off balance in some kind of emotional way. And I was off balance, but I was starting to face my feelings, my unconscious, and really trying to get to know myself and what's going on. So that represented that I wasn't drowning in my emotions. I was really trying to overcome them, And then when I went into the room, went back into the house, and he said he had a pet boar, and he was like, "Oh, that's really, this is the part that's really tripping me out." Whatever words he used, but he was saying, he mentioned, "Have you heard of in Norse mythology a boar called Gullinbursti?" And I was like, "No, I'm not too knowledgeable on the Norse mythology." But he was talking about this Gullinbursti. He said it's a humongous boar, like the size that you're saying, and the dwarves made it for Frey. Frey is one of the Norse gods, and he was talking about that, and he's saying that it has a connection to Venus, because Venus sits in the southeast in the Thunder Wheel in the dwarf home, and Frey's wife and sister, I forget about what the whole story is about that, but it's like the feminine and masculine energy of Frey sits in the southeast right there in the dwarf home, and it's connected to Venus. And his I forget what it was, his Atmakarika or his Dharma Devata or something is Venus. So he was tripping out on that. He goes, well, that shows a real connection between you as a student and me as the teacher. It's just too coincidental. You had the dream of Gullinbursti. And I was tripping out, and he goes, and what really confirms it also for me is that when he said that I had mentioned, I was also worried about my ducks in the pond over there, and you turned to look and there wasn't no ducks. he was saying when he used to do when he used to teach qigong in some park. One time he had finished class and he was walking to his car, and there was a bunch of ducks that kept following him to the car, and he was kind of like trying to shoo them away, but they wouldn't go away. So eventually they went away, and he got in his car and took off. That represents like a big, for sure, confirmation about this connection that I have with the path and him as a teacher. So it's a real trip. He was tripping out on that, and so that's how him doing meditations on Gullinbursti, it became his power animal because of this dream that I had. And I've tried to connect with Gullinbursti too, but I haven't really felt that strong connection like he has. Gullinbursti is translated as golden mane or golden bristles. This represents this big ass boar who he can fly through the air. He could go through water, like he's unstoppable. Nothing can stop him. And if it gets dark, his golden mane shines light. So it's like, it's metaphoric for facing your fears and shining light in the darkness, that type of stuff, and being really confident on the path and really not stopping, constantly pursuing, hacking into your unconscious, understanding what's going on there. Maybe you might not really figure out the exact memory of why you're reacting a certain way to things, but you know that there's something inside you that's getting stirred up that really helps you to feel comfortable inside your body. So that was a dream that I had. Just wanted to talk about that since he had mentioned it. I figured I'd go into more detail about what the dream was about. So hope you guys are all doing good. Anybody want a Thunder Astrology reading, leave the link on the bottom. Talk to you guys later. Peace.